Experiencing extreme loss. Can we find any way to be grateful for that? That's coming up on the next episode of this, the Gratitude Journal podcast.
This is the Gratitude Journal podcast.
Yes, I'm still alive. The rumors about my demise have been greatly exaggerated on this several days before Christmas 2024, here in the basement lair, a very chilly basement lair, because surrounding me, outside of my cubed glass block windows, I spot blue sky and sunshine, but it's really only about 28 degrees, and yours truly just went outside to ponder the earth as we know it, and also shovel snow and spread salt, so nobody falls on my sidewalk, and I have no liability. Matthew here. Thank you for tuning in and downloading this, the final episode of 2024, the Gratitude Journal podcast, the podcast that A, has not had a lot of new inventory to add during 2024, and B, my New Year's resolution personified as I try to find new ways to add more content in 2025. At least that's what I'm telling myself. And I am mere moments away from uploading the video version of the Gratitude Journal podcast. I want to say more info coming up later on in this episode, but I don't know that that's true. It's just me waiting to hit send and knowing that it's out there, and then dealing with all the aftermath of knowing that, something that has my ugly mug on it is actually out there in the cybersphere. So I have been, I want to say uncharacteristically absent, but that wouldn't be true. I've been pretty absent during 2024, sitting in front of this microphone here in the basement lair, trying to tell you and show you ways to be grateful and to find little light flickers of gratitude in things that maybe we don't really normally look at. And the big event, without getting overtly dramatic, is that on November 11th of this year, we lost my father. And this was very devastating, not only to me, but to my large family, because, we have been very lucky to have our parents around for 96 years, both of them, their birthdays 3 days apart. And so we have been very, very fortunate. And, this was a new event in the life cycle for all of us, because, we have heard and experienced others losing their parents. We've all gone to calling hours for other people's parents, and we've attended funerals for other people's parents, but not for our parents. And, Don and I have had this sort of ritual every Saturday of going down to visit my parents. In the last couple of years, it's been at an assisted living facility. And, we had a routine, and that routine was to stop by one of the local chain places and get my parents a donut. And, they look forward to that glazed donuts, whether they ate, before or after, they kind of look forward to that. At least that was my impression. And that's kind of that's what we did on Saturdays. We went through the drive-through and got the donuts, and then we'd sit around and talk until we had to go do our regular thing on Saturday. And, having lost my father on November 11th, it was just almost kind of crushing that, I would only be buying one donut now, and that would be for my mother. And, that time period of buying one donut didn't last very long, because on December 8th of this year, my mother passed away. So, this is, I really had only begun to wrap my head around the death of my father, and then, it was the death of my mother. So, we have experienced something, pretty gripping and pretty tragic. And we're all trying to deal with the aftermath of that in the midst of, a holiday season, which under normal circumstances would be very celebratory and jubilant. And, my question is, how do you do that? I received so many unbelievably nice notes from people, and my family, I have 3 brothers and 3 sisters, and we have kind of a text thread that we share things with, and just the interplay between all of us, just sort of laying our feelings out there and, just sharing, pictures and videos throughout this last month or more, has been so gratifying. And I never really thought that I would say that. And I was saying that to various people who know our family, in the line at calling hours. And I hate calling hours. Don and I are not doing any of that, but this was the thing that everybody wanted to do. And, so that's what we did. And it was just strange, seeing almost the same group of people like 3 weeks before, and then like the same group of people coming through, the line. And, for 3 hours you're standing there and, my feet were killing me and Donna had to sit down, and it's a long time. And we even tried to talk to the funeral director and say, do we have to do this for 3 hours? And he's like, well, here's what's going to happen. There's going to be a super line of people right at the start because they kind of want to get it out of the way. And, I think your family is a big family, and your name, in your section of the Buckeye State is kind of a, well-known sort of renowned name. And, its tentacles stretch into all areas, especially when it comes to sports. And it's true. There were so many people from everybody's neighborhoods and sports teams and who they worked with. And I mean, it was like a cavalcade of all these people. And really, for my father, it was from 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock, a constant stream of people. A little less for my mother, but really it was a large group of people. And what I recall saying to this, some members of this large group of people is that I hear about people relying on their family and leaning on their family. And, it was unbelievably true over the course of this past month. And, I personally ran into some work issues regarding, the status of what bereavement is and having time off and that kind of thing. And the one thing that I'm so grateful for is someone in my, sort of corporate structure sort of went to bat for me and, clarified the position, because it wasn't made clear to me through my immediate supervisor and, how much time you get off. And it wasn't that I was just looking for time off, but I said to this person who kind of ran interference for me, and I share this with my siblings in person, that time off was critical. I mean, I tried to function the week of my father's death. I had to be in a series of meetings, and my head was just not in the game. And it was devastating to have to go through the normal construct of work. And so when someone said to me, you need that time off, those words were never more true. And, luckily I had the forethought to, regroup after my mother passed to make sure that I had that time, because it was necessary. I mean, I'm so grateful for my family. The fact that literally every night we were getting together, and yes, we had to make a lot of trips because we don't live in the same city as the rest of my family, but it was well worth it just to be able to hang out and, hug and cry and laugh and just share stuff. And it was invaluable. I can't even begin to say how grateful I am to my family for everything involved in those almost nightly get-togethers. I can say really without any hesitation that none of this really has come to, its full impact on me, because I know going through a first holiday without our parents is tough enough, but I think it's the aftermath because, post-holiday has always been a little depressing for me. And I feel like, the downtime that you normally have was so impacted by, grief and just dealing with all of the aftermath of two deaths. I don't really know how early 2025 is going to feel. I'm sure I'll vocalize that in the form of, either an audio or video podcast, but I'm trying to understand exactly what loss is. And people have said, in this receiving line, well, 96 years, that's a lot of years. That's a good life. And it's true. It is. It's a very good life. But for some reason, as I shared with some of my other siblings, it doesn't really seem like much of a salve. And eventually, they're going to pass. I mean, as we all are. And I said, my pre-preparation was meaningless. It was worthless because in no way could the pre-preparation even hope to prepare me for, the actual event. And, in today's modern times, we find these things out via text. And never in a million years did I think that I would, find out that my parents had passed away via text. But that's the way we communicate with each other. And I've come to expect that this is the way things are dealt with in the modern age. And so from that standpoint, like the whole thing just hasn't really come across, sort of tumbled onto me. But I will say that two things I'm very grateful for that have kind of maybe, instigated some kind of healing process as I'm trying to understand what a process is in, losing your parents. And as I'm sure other people who have lost parents, have gone years and have really never understood, the full impact or the full weight and brunt of this. I've been wearing this hat that I bought for my dad, who he never really wore. And he was always so cold all the time. Like even in their apartment, even before assisted living, he was just cold a lot. And, he was very slim. And my dad just didn't like food. It didn't really, except for that donut, it just really didn't really impact him. Like he was more like, eat to live and not live to eat, as my mother used to say. And he was always so cold. So I bought him like this ski cap that had the name of the school where he graduated from, the college that he graduated from. And, unless you're from the state of West Virginia, you wouldn't know where Fairmont State University is or was. But I bought that for him in the hopes that he would wear it because sometimes for me, when I'm cold, if I have a ski cap on my head, I feel warmer. And he just really never wore it and never gravitated. And I would see it kind of on the ledge underneath the television. And I thought, okay, it's there. It's decor. That's fine. But I've been wearing that hat, and when I put it on, as I did this morning when I went out to shovel snow and spread ice pellets down, that, I felt like I was carrying like a little piece of him with me. And I know that sounds weird and people say it all the time, but it never really meant a whole lot to me before. But it seemed to have a little more impact and meaning for me now. And so that's like the first thing that I'm appreciative of. And second of all, Donna's been reminding me of this conversation that my mom used to have, and we kind of laugh out loud because my mother had this way over the last couple of years. You would be talking about something. It could be the news. It could be whatever. And sometimes there'd be this pause, and then she would look away, and then she would look back at you and go, "Oh, well, can't have everything." And then she would chuckle, and it had nothing to do really with what you were talking about. And so I would laugh out loud because that had nothing to do with what we were just talking about. But the fact that she was just summarizing the world as she knew it or realized it. And I was realizing while I was spreading the salt pellets this morning, it was really quite enlightening because really, if you take that phraseology and include the laugh if you want, you can't have everything. I mean, didn't the Rolling Stones write about that? You can't, always get what you want, but you get what you need. And so I thought how philosophical and really how wise for her to say that. But Donna will sometimes, like, there'll be a pause and you'll go, oh, well, can't have everything. And we both just like laugh our butts off at that because it was just so funny to hear my mom say it in the context of nothing else that you were just talking about. And so I have that as well. Yeah, I'm sure there'll be a lot of other things that will come to mind over this, but I can't even use my parents' death, as an excuse for not creating more content and not having the video podcast up yet on the YouTube channel. And I don't even know if I'll be doing it right. I've been watching, like, here's how you do, and there's things you have to have so that people, like you and subscribe and all this. I mean, I get all the it's powerful. You have to follow those guidelines, but I don't know whether it'll work for me or not. I'll try it. I feel like, in a way, being able to just sit in front of this microphone or to sit in front of a camera is kind of therapy enough, at this point in time, because all we really have is just the honesty that we, share with ourselves. And, like right now, just talking about it, I kind of want to tear up a little bit, but I feel like the whole force of everything that has occurred just hasn't even begun to touch me. And so I'm okay with that. I'm just going to let things wash over however they wash over me and just go with the flow because, listen, this is what it is. It's nothing more than this. We live and hopefully we live a full life like they did, and we make impact on people, and we live a life that's honest and true, and we try to do good, as Donna likes to say, and I believe it. She said it all along. No dogma attached. I just feel like if you're just a good person, that's good enough, and I really believe that, and I know that she believes that to this day, and so that's what I'm going with. So. Yeah, okay. A lot of mumbo jumbo, but that's the way it is. I'm grateful for a lot of things this year, which I'll touch upon maybe at some point next year. I don't really do end of the year reviews. Who cares? All I know is that, there's just been a lot of chaos and turmoil this year, and, it got accentuated here with the passing of my parents, but I have to accept it and I have to move on, and we all have to move on. And, I'm grateful that I have others to move on with. That's what I'm grateful for. And not that you have to have a big family, to be grateful. I just happen to have a big family, but I'm grateful to have the opportunity to lean on them, and to sit in front of this microphone and talk with you fine folks. So, thank you for downloading and listening to another episode of the Gratitude Journal podcast.